as the fire hit the town. I heard you cry, you can still be saved. So I took the road you went down.
Hello, I'm Marina Soroncean, and today we're back speaking with the singer and songwriter Slim Stevens. Welcome back.
Thank you, Marina.
The last time we were here, we discussed motherhood,
I remember.
and today I'm going to ask you about your sainthood.
Interesting, all right.
Yes, and I'm going to try to make you to discover your another secret of happiness.
Okay, you're going to try to get me to tell another secret of happiness?
Yes, I will try it,
Okay.
but I'll try it later. Now I had written some questions, so I don't forget them.
Really? Questions?
Yes.
Let me see. You have an extra copy?
Yes.
You do? Okay, oh my goodness. All right. Okay.
Okay.
Red Cross, okay.
Didn't you film your performances of Sound of Nothing from this spot?
Oh, The Sound of Nothing, the song. As a
Yes.
matter of fact, I did, but you did some good research. I was facing that way at the time, not with my back to the kayaker. Yeah, that's right here. It's quite. This is the original Key Bridge. The new one is obviously up there.
Yes. In your song Invisible River, you sing, I have to quote it, "My sister and I on the summer heard a different tongue. My voices that descended in a camp of Unitarian. Bob Dylan's voice cried out to me, you're old enough to run. Agnostic patron saint and his prophet-driven son." He was your agnostic patron saint? Why?
So the line, sometimes it's hard. You can sing the lines, but you can't say them. You know what I'm talking about? The lyrics, my sister and I one summer heard a different tongue, voices that dissented in a camp Unitarian. Bob Dylan's voice cried out to me, you're old enough to run. Agnostic patron saint and his prophet-driven son. Was he my agnostic patron saint? Yeah, well, I guess I said he was, didn't I? That's what it says right there. I had a really strong arm in first grade. Mm-hmm. You're from Moldova, right?
Yes.
You have first grade in Moldova?
We do.
That's right, you call it that?
Yes.
Okay. I had a really strong right arm in first grade. You know what I mean by that? Me, I know. My daughter is a first grade teacher, and she let me come to her class a couple months ago, and there they are. Me. So looking back, I realized that, I should say looking forward and looking currently too, one of the biggest impulses I have is the following. Mm-hmm. Me. So when I realized that that's what's motivating me and us, that made a big difference to me, one of my basic forces. And my good friend Bob Dylan, whom I've never spoken to personally, has a lot of that too. But I think nowadays he goes, me. Then, luckily, to go with my strong right arm as a first grader, you have second grade in Moldova too?
We do.
Okay, in second grade, I had a very good intellect. And you've heard of Abe Lincoln, right?
Yes.
Is there like a hero they all talk about in Moldova?
Yes.
Who's that?
Stefan Chalmari.
Stefan Chalmari, okay. So everybody in second grade was talking about Abe Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln this, Abraham Lincoln that, Abraham Lincoln did this, Abraham Lincoln did that. it wasn't for a couple of decades that I didn't appreciate that the second graders south of the Mason-Dixon line, which is sort of that separates the North and the South. I think theirs was Robert E. Lee, but I was smart. And remember, I was me. So I figured out that I wanted to be Abe Lincoln. Because then everybody would be talking about me. This is so true. I remember this emotion. Another emotion I can remember so clearly is someday I'll be 10 years old. Do you ever have that?
Yes, we all want to grow up when we're little.
I can remember, I must have been 5 or 6. 10 was so high. It was way 10, way up there. So, being a smart kid and merging my talents and desires with my knowledge, I decided I was going to become Abe Lincoln. I was really smart, because you know what I figured out?
What?
You're not going to like this. Abe Lincoln was dead. This gave me one of my first problems, because I remember the fantasy that I was going to become Abe Lincoln was really strong. Must be fantasy life for a child, you know. I had made up my mind. And this is where I think I had my mother's insight, because she was very good at like seeing deep into the forces behind what's going on the surface. And I didn't have her ability for that. And I had to decide the following. Was it worth becoming Abe Lincoln if it also meant I had to be dead? Now, I didn't know much about being dead, but I'd done a little research, and I knew that might not be good. I agonized a long time about that. And you know what?
What?
I decided, yes, it was worth it. So that was why I became Bob Dylan's prophet-driven son. And it's prophet, P-H-E-T, but it's kind of a little bit of a dig to my friend there. Boy, that was a long answer. Huh?
That's why you were quoted as saying that all the artists are writing their own obituaries?
All artists are writing their own obituaries.
Yes.
I don't remember that quote. I think what you heard me say, or they heard me say, was, I wish I could be on that airplane. No, I think what they heard me say was, I'm just one epiphany short of a paradigm shift. That's about how I feel right now. Artists are all writing their obituaries. Yeah, I think they're scared and mad. I think anyone who lives, just like my second grader deciding, is it worth it if I'm going to be Abe Lincoln to be dead? It's kind of similar. I think of Frank McCourt. Frank McCourt wrote a book called Angela's Ashes about his mother. And he's gone now. And it amazes me that he could be gone, that little Irish boy. And I never met Frank McCourt. I saw him on TV. I'm a sucker for accents. I was born in England, you know. So when I came here, I had a little 5-year-old English accent, which was sort of, I lost it by attrition, that's all.
I wish you kept it.
Do you? I'll work on it. I'm a good chameleon. I always adopt the tone of other people. So I wouldn't be very good as one of those receptionists that they hire just because they have an English accent, you know? Oh, boy. So, Frank McCourt was scared and mad. I know my agnostic patron saint, Bob Dylan, was scared and mad. I read Steve Martin's book. If I listen to a book on tape, is that reading it? Because some of my friends say I didn't read it. And so ever since then, I thought like, well, gosh, you shouldn't be saying you read it when I listened to every word. So I listened to Steve Martin's book, and he's scared and mad. And I think anybody is scared and mad. In my case, it's more sort of scared and sad. So I still, as the first grader with the Abe Lincoln fetish, I still believe that that it won't happen, or what I'll leave, what'll be left behind. But I think that's what I meant.
Okay.
When I was growing up, after Abe Lincoln, I can only remember two, and it just bothers me. Two people. Did you have heroes? Like when you were in second grade, was there like a famous movie star or a famous singer? Or
Yeah, everybody has that.
who was yours?
Cinderella.
Cinderella. Okay. So I remember Abe Lincoln, and I can only remember two. I remember Fabian, who you could buy Fabian bubblegum cards, and he was a pop star. He was probably like a Justin Bieber. Sorry, Fabian. Sorry, Justin. And I remember collecting his cards. Like we had baseball cards where you get a slice of pink bubble gum. And they came out with Fabian cards. So that was interesting, you know, like you can understand wanting to have a baseball hero. But I remember that. I don't remember a thing about Fabian. Not a thing. But I remember his name, and I remember he was one of those obsessions for a little kid. And the other was Mickey Mantle, who was a baseball player.
Oh.
A New York Yankee. And I grew up from the age of 5 to 15 around New York. Then I went away to a Unitarian summer camp. And just like there had been an Abe Lincoln machine, a publicity machine, and a Fabian publicity machine, and a Mickey Mantle publicity machine, I think with an athlete, when they're famous, we always have sort of more respect for them because you can't fake it. Whereas there are people who think some of the popular singers today aren't really that talented.
Yeah.
But for me, when I got to this Unitarian summer camp, my sister was 3 years older than I was. So I was following the publicity machine was working there, and it was working for Bob Dylan. There were two counselors, Speedy Ventura, Michael Vincent Ventura, Speedy Ventura, and Mike Berger. And they thought Bob Dylan was cool. And I thought Bob Dylan was cool. Because I thought they were cool. And that was when he became, in a way, my prophet-driven son. And I called him the agnostic patron saint. I guess it speaks for itself. I'm going to give you a free secret of happiness, okay? No charge, all right?
Okay.
You won't even have to use your card for the other one. Looking back, I realized one day that hype, you know what hype is when you say, oh, come see Marina Soroncean in her new red dress. Come to the original Key Bridge Foundation. The graffiti matches her outfit. Come Sunday morning and you get a free cup of lukewarm coffee. Did you get your cup of lukewarm?
Yes.
Okay. So the publicity machine was working for him. And what I learned was hype will get you up, but hype won't keep you up.
That's true.
And to me what that meant was Yeah, I think he's cool because they told me he's cool. I read later how the people, I don't even know your album, your label, Bob. I think it's Columbia, but the Columbia Records people were sending memos back and forth saying, why aren't we selling more boots? Bob Dylan was wearing boots, so they were selling like a counterculture. But the hype might have got him up, although I don't think in his case it was the hype that got him up. He wasn't like picked to be a boy band like now they'll like audition and create a boy band out of people. But he kept himself up.
Okay.
Is that a long enough answer for you?
Yes, it's a
Okay.
very interesting answer too. Thank you for that. If Schlesinger had some thoughts about your song entitled "He Was 12," and I want to quote her. She said, "The whole thing, everything, it is Slim life story, and to whom doesn't he address it? His music hero, Bob Dylan, but wait, to whom does Slim pay tribute? Not Bobby." With that teaser, let's watch "He Was 12" on the monitor.
That's what she said?
Yes.
Here it is, the whole thing, everything. Everything. It is Slim's life story, and to whom does he address it? His music hero, Bobby Dylan. But wait, to whom does Slim pay tribute? Not Bobby. Uh-huh. Okay, so now we're going to watch it on the monitor. This over here?
Yes.
He was 12 when he first heard you. The future was cold and long. Lying in his living room as Peter, Paul, and Mary sang your song. How many roads must he walk down before he's called a man? Trying to forget the blows he didn't understand. He crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. Now all these years later he hears your mother has died. Below the summer camp theater, their cave was enough. On their green army blanket bed with the girl he so gently loved. The daughter of a Puritan and a reclusive saboteur. The son of a utopian and an abused frontier girl. He had rode all night on a bicycle on the New York interstate to buy your latest album, and now the sad-eyed lady played. Addicted to the other side he could never get to. In every house they're happier, in every building too. He hustled the marble corridor, shook every famous hand. Where the dirty little secret was, never take a stand. But late at night he'd roll one and hear you trying to get it right. Haunted by grandiosity with no place to hide. At the money changer's table he began to make a name. But he was stopped in his betrayal by the sad and ancient pain. From guru to professor, from lobbyist to clown, he sampled all their medicines with champagne to keep them down. Try this one for duplicity, try this one for deceit. But here he is at 2 a.m. playing your songs on the street. now I must confess, I got a message to her. I said, in my loneliness, he helped me endure. Could I have still been trying to reach the other side after years of hearing you describing the price of being glorified? Well, thank you for asking. How does it feel? I'm invisible now, I've got no secrets to conceal.
Let me ask you this. Did you crawl to the speaker?
Yeah, the song says he was 12 when he first heard you. The future was long and hard. He crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. That speaker was very important to me. My dad listened to Brahms and Beethoven. I think they were his, and Rachmaninoff. And we had this big speaker. The speaker was like this big, you know, it was like, and sometimes he would lie on his back near the speaker, just like having a Walkman in his ears, and he would get absorbed. So he had that romantic impulse, which looking back was amazing, because he was a workaholic. Both my parents were workaholics in a sense. And my mother could appreciate artistic things. She was basically tone deaf though. She'd hit like every third note or something. So my father had the musical sense. But looking back, it's amazing to me that he could, with all the other pressures he had and the unhappiness he had, find the time for himself to lie in front of that speaker. Well, that was the same speaker, and I was 12, that good old, what's his name now, Grossman, who was Bob Dylan's, I forget there's a term for somebody who's the person, the older person who sort of directs another person's life. Maybe it'll hit me later, some Latin word. And Grossman, what's your first name, Grossman? Come on, you created Bob Dylan. At least he created Peter, Paul and Mary. And they sang Blowing in the Wind, and it became a top #1 hit. And it had these huge symbolic questions, which are very, you know, people, there it was. And that was the same speaker. That's why I said he crawled to the speaker and tried to climb inside. Now all these years later, I hear your mother has died. So in a sense, that's as close as I ever got to Bob, because I was absorbing the legacy that I got from my own dad about making time for music, believing in it, which was extremely hard when I was a young, annoying, worried, ambitious, I don't want to say a negative word about myself other than that, but it amazed me then and it amazed me now that I could actually take time like my dad did. And Bob had an inspiration who was Beatty Zimmerman, his mother. And in a sense, in that song, I was making an analogy. You know, you asked me something before. I noticed this question and talked about it. The publicity machine that we were talking about was really annoying to him. There's this section in his movie, Don't Look Back, where he says, we need another Bob Dylan. In other words, he was like the girl who gets a job in an amusement park and has to wear the Winnie the Pooh costume, you know, after 7 days. maybe she doesn't want to wear the Winnie the Pooh costume. There's a song called Beautiful Dreamer. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. As part of my recent folk song, not farewell tour, look back, I realized how important that tune had been to me as a child. And I'm not good with chords, you know. Mm-hmm. 3 chords is a lot. And you know what, this song, you have to change the chords every now and then. I can never get them right. So, but after 111 times, at least I got the basic rudimentary chords. I didn't know anything about the song. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me, stardust and dewdrops are waiting for thee. It's pretty hard. I'm very critical. There's always a voice in me saying, oh, that's so tacky. But there was the melody, and I love playing it on the harmonica. And songs of the rude world heard in the day, lulled by the moonlight have all passed away. Beautiful dreamer, queen of my song. I like that line. List while I woo thee with soft melody. Gone are the cares of life's busy throng. Beautiful dreamer, wake unto me. All right. Not quite up to the standards maybe of my good friend Bob or me in terms of having, well, I don't want to talk about myself. I would never talk about myself. Having, except today, the twist. The storms are raging on the open sea and on the highway of regret. There's this song of his that I used to play, and I don't anymore, but it had that one line. Only one, but it had it. So anyway, Beautiful Dreamer was written 152 years ago by a guy named Stephen Foster, who wrote a lot of American famous songs. And it was one of 20 songs that they advertised in the newspapers as the last song written by Stephen Foster. And I saw that, I just got such a kick out of it to see that the publicity machine was running there for Stephen Foster, you know, I don't know if you can hear me. The hype was getting him up. I also did some other research about somebody who had a lot of hype, who was a carpenter from Nazareth, I think. And he came home with a special talent, and he came to his temple, which was like church, and started telling people things and acting very, I guess they thought he was arrogant. And they chased him from the temple. They actually chased him up the hill and almost threw him off the cliff. Later on, long after he was gone, there was a lot of people spent a lot of time talking about him. And there's analogous, I guess it's analogous because Bobby Dylan, in his way, came back with special knowledge and an amazing ability to, the Carpenter and Abe Lincoln had an incredible ability to make a lesson by analogy. And I wish I'd known I was going to be thinking about this, because I would have researched what turns of phrase they had, although I can probably remember just off the cuff. You probably can too. Well, let him who has no sin throw the first stone. You know, it's just,
yes,
that's
the famous one.
That's pretty basic. And also turn the other cheek, which is an amazing psychological technique, which works. Incredible. So Bobby Dylan came back and got some notoriety, and they were all excited. By they, I mean a certain sector of New York City European immigrants who really liked Blowing in the Wind, and Bob had, I hope I can talk about this later, Bob had done some very brave things in his songs. So they decided to give him an award at a big dinner.
Okay.
And he said, he has the assassin's motivation in his heart too. And I think by that he meant that we all have negative feelings, and not to pretend. Oh, and they chased him up the hill and almost threw him off the cliff. They made a huge, huge deal of it. And it was really hard. I think Bob was 22, and all of a sudden from being the hero, he was treated as a pariah and was almost attacked. And that was hard for him. He also had the first grade, me. He had this one song, let's see if without singing it's hard to do, but you might be the ambassador to England or France. You might like to gamble. You might like to dance. Mm-hmm. You might be the heavyweight champion of the world. You might be a socialite with a long string of pearls. But you got to serve somebody. You might be a rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. You might have drugs at your command. You might have women in a cage. You might be a businessman or some high degree thief. They might call you doctor. They might call you chief. Whoa. So he knew that he was a rock and roll addict prancing on the stage. He knew he had that that gene, that me. I knew you were going to ask me about Bob Dylan, obviously. Kids are always trying to get on the airplane. We should have done this at 3 a.m. with no planes, right? Kids are always asking, especially of their parents, why are you fighting? And Bob asked that to everybody. It especially hurts now with what's going on. You just see so many children being blown up.
Yeah.
Something's wrong, and it hurts. It hurts. But being a kid, like by third grade, you're not just interested in those truths. You're interested in being hip and arrogant. The fifth graders are pushing you around, and Bob was great at the arrogant gene. We all talked about it at the Unitarian camp. Oh my gosh, you hear what happened? What? Oh, I was at Gertie's Folk City and Bob Dylan was there going through these records. I walked up and said, "Hey, Bob." And he said, "My friends call me Robert." So he knew how to put people down, and did it in his songs too. Was that your question? Oh, I'll say that I bet he made a much better hero than he did a roommate or housemate. I think that was definitely for him. So you asked, did I crawl to the speaker? Yeah, that's why I crawled to the speaker and tried to get inside, because I was trying to get away. In other words, there's a voice, why are you fighting? My parents were fighting. Mm-hmm. And if I could get in that speaker, get into the song, I like my father was doing too, I guess, get into the song. Although at the time I never realized how similar it was. But yeah, I tried to climb inside. In a sense, that's what I've done ever since, by becoming part of the song structure myself.
Do you still have your Green Army blanket?
Oh, from the song, the Green Army blanket?
Yes.
No, I don't know where that went. I don't even have her anymore. I looked hard for her. I contacted her mother, I contacted her sister, because I wanted so much to know what life looked like to her and get memories. And I know that she has things in that little treasure chest of her memories that, hey, you look good with that.
Thank you.
Where's mine? Her treasure chest of memories. Yeah, there she was. She was, yeah, the first girlfriend. I was okay until I got to the fourth girlfriend, then I had some problems.
Why?
Well, my fourth girlfriend was a dyslexic, agnostic, anorexic insomniac. You know what she did?
What?
She stayed up all night eating cookies and wondering if there is a dog.
Wow.
Wanted to make sure I got them all in there. Dyslexic, agnostic, anorexic. Yeah, they're all in there. Oh, jeez. You ask good questions.
Let me ask you this. Did your green army blanket was your security blanket?
Yeah, I mean, it was my security blanket, emotionally in that sense. And Bob Dylan's songs were a security blanket too. The way he opened it, myself for what I did, I cannot be excused. The changes I was going through can't even be used. For the lies that I told in an effort not to lose the would-be dream lover of a lifetime. He was talking to me. I'll let this go by. He was talking to me about how he screwed up relationships and messed things up, and that gave me tremendous power because I thought, like a lot of adolescents, that I was supposed to be perfect and was very hard on myself when I wasn't. So in a sense, he was my army blanket, my security blanket. I can't help thinking about security blankets without thinking of John Ransom. He was the man who was a northern soldier and was committed to the Andersonville Civil War prison, which was a prison of the South. I think that the Northerners, after the Civil War, executed one man, only one. Everything else was forgiven.
Interesting.
And the man they executed was the man who ran the Andersonville prison because he killed people. He didn't take them out and shoot them, but just the equivalent. And John Ransom was one of these people, and he wrote a diary which is just unbelievable because it happened to him. And he had a blanket in the prison. And he knows because he was there night after night after night. He knows that that blanket saved his life. The war was over and they were released, and he was walking north, emaciated, sick, almost dead. And the second night, one of the people he was traveling with stole his security blanket. And he reflected on how for whatever it was, 2.5 years, if he had not had that, he would have been dead. But as soon as he didn't need it, it was taken, but it was okay because he was okay. He was out. He could get warm. He could live. That's the way I feel about what Bob Dylan did for me when I didn't have any other tools. I had that psychological tool of crawling into the speaker, crawling into his words.
What was the bicycle ride like?
Oh, in the song.
Yes.
He had rode on the, oh, how does that go? In the green, below the summer camp theater, that's a summer camp, their cave was enough. You asked that right here. On their green army blanket bed with the girl he so gently loved, he had rode all night on a bicycle on the New York interstate to buy your latest album, and now the sad-eyed lady played. Oh, I was a hero. Me. Oh, I made a plan. This was going to impress. Who would it impress? Speedy Ventura and Mike Berger. What was my plan? We knew that Bob Dylan's new album was going to come out. It was July. And we knew that there was a record store in Brewster, New York. Brewster, New York was probably 21 miles away. I got on my bike and I rode all night on the interstate, which was almost empty, and I was on the shoulder, to Brewster, New York, to buy Blonde on Blonde. You're too young, but we used to have records, which came in like record sleeves.
I remember that.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. And I brought it back. So that's sort of like bringing back. What would that be like? Bringing back the Recovering the army blanket? No, saving something. So I wanted to be a hero.
Okay. That is the son of a utopian.
Oh, the son of a utopian. Yeah, my father was a utopian, and my mother was an abused frontier girl. That was a marriage made in hell. No, that was that's what they were.
You shook the all famous hands. Let me ask you this: what is better, to be a hero or to have a hero?
Oh, from the song "He Shook His Famous Hand."
Yes.
Yeah, I did shake every famous hand. Boy, having a hero is so much better in so many ways. In this instance, to be able to know who cares for you, to be writing your songs for no other audience than yourself. So I can appreciate Bob in ways that he can't appreciate himself. The guy who was writing the 10 Commandments. You heard of the 10 Commandments?
Yes.
Yeah, you got those in Moldova?
We do.
So he could be thinking, wait a second, I should have put number 9 ahead of number 2. You know, I could have put an adjective here instead of... So the author is always replaying in his own mind. The guy who makes the movie can never see it the way the person just comes and sees the movie. So in that weird sense, I got to appreciate Bob Dylan much more than he did, because it's had this huge effect on me, and I liked it, and I got those things without having to pay the big cost that he had to pay.
Like what?
Well, like learning the easy way that public love is empty love. You know, he learned